Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Plákata Nation. Yes, welcome, and we are here with the one and only mi primo directamente desde el my man Cut Rod in the house. And then we have baseball writer extraordinaire, the youngest member of the Baseball Writers Association in the Major Leagues. Yes, Jesus Ortiz, the one and only as well. All right, in his industry. Guys, really pumped to have you guys once again. And we have a lot to talk about. And look, we cannot be around the bush here. All right. We got to go straight to this hot topic in Major League Baseball. The New York Mets are on a roll. Fellas, they are on a roll. So awesome to see. Completed the sweep of the homestand, going up against the mighty Phillies.
7-0 in this homestand. 7-0.
This is
they are
happened in a while.
They are destroying it, man. They are on another level. Again, I have friends that are Met fans. Our own Jesus Ortiz is a self-contained Mets fan too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta listen. They're a great story, man. They are a great story, Jesus. They really are. Early this season, you gotta really love the Mets right now.
The Mets truly are the best story in baseball. And like everybody expected, Pete Alonso is the best player in the National League. Sarcasm all the way.
He's the MVP, Jesus.
He and Kyle Tucker are playing really, really well, and they're going to get much better, bigger contracts because of it if they keep going like this.
You know, we are huge Pete Alonso fans here in Plakata Nation, you know, because Rod and I had the privilege of having him on, and he was just so gracious with his time, and he really shared a lot of knowledge. Like, if I'm a young player, man, and I really want to get a hold of that interview, we'll make sure that we get a couple clips to include here so that the young players out there could get something out of it. Look, he cares about process, preparation, and I know last season was difficult for him, but guess what he did? He just went back to work as soon as that season ended, and now we're seeing he's reaping the rewards of that hard work. But the hard work, it's been a constant. You know, one of the things that he talked about, do you remember this, Rod? The buck stops with me, he says. All right, like, that's it. Like, he is all about accountability. So to see him have this time in the limelight and getting the recognition that he deserves after a tough season last year, after a tough offseason of negotiations, it couldn't happen to a better guy. Right now, is he the MVP of the Mets? You know, we could argue Francisco Lindor is right there. We'll get our picks later. But the Mets would not be where they're at right now if it weren't for Pete Alonso's performance.
Absolutely not. Pete is batting 341, 440 on base, 681 slugging, 6 home runs, 26 RBIs. The guy is he's having this just great start to the season, and he is the guy that, you know, the Mets, this is who the Mets wanted from jump. This is what they wanted last year. And I know that front office right now is quietly like just going like, yeah, because they got a really good deal on Pete Alonso and what he's doing for them right now. He's a bargain right now for them, man.
Yeah, you know, I used to be on the Mets beat way back in the day, and I always said that the Mets take secondary coverage, unfortunately, headlines from the Yankees. Sometimes the Yankees doing poor is a bigger story than the Yankees doing well. But the Mets early in this season have kind of quieted all the cynicism, all the critics who just a week ago were jumping all over Juan Soto. What were the headlines a week ago? Juan Soto struggling. Juan Soto says he didn't have the coverage. They made a big deal. But what did the Mets do? Francisco Lindor stepped in and defended Juan Soto. And more importantly, his teammates stepped up. You said a perfect homestand, and nobody's talking about Juan Soto's struggles right now. The baseball's a long season. Unfortunately, in New York, it's not an 162-game season. It's 162 one-game seasons. Every game is like they treat like it's a crazy season. So what you have now is you have the goodwill that the teammates have seen. Like Juan Soto's like, man, Francisco Lindor had my back. Pete Alonso had my back. It's okay to point out that Aaron Judge, the best man in the American League, was batting behind you last year. One positive compliment to your former teammate isn't a dig against your current teammates. But Francisco Lindor, the leader, el capitán de Puerto Rico, stepped up and said, hey, he said nothing wrong. We're cool. But more importantly, they went out and won. And trust me, I've worked in that market. That could have easily gone sideways. Many greats can tell you. Bobby Bonilla can tell you. You say the one thing that's misinterpreted, and they'll use it against you. And good for the Mets on just winning. Winning cures everything.
It cures everything. And I must give Juan Soto a lot of credit, because despite the criticism, you know what he's done? He's like, you know what? It's a long year. I'm going to focus on my process. I know that at the end of the season, I'm going to make my contributions to this ball club. I have to think long term. I can't think I got to come out of the gates and just be the best player in baseball. That is the wrong attitude to have when you're looking at deals of this magnitude. Even though the pressure is certainly there, how do you succumb it? How do you even mitigate all that, everything that's coming your way? Process, a commitment to the process. And he is Mr. Process. So I watch him go out and take batting practice, going through his routine. And I'm like, all right, this guy's locked in. I watch him trying to battle every at bat, even though he may not be feeling at his best, grinding, trying to just give good ABs, quality at bats. The bat will come around. It will come around. And yes, of course, sometimes things are misinterpreted. Maybe he got caught off guard with a question. He says one thing a certain way, that even thinking in Spanish, that's another thing that we have to. Can we clear the air here, guys? Because we speak Spanish, okay? We speak English. There are times that we're thinking in Spanish, and we may say something in English that doesn't quite come off exactly the way it should. Now, in Spanish, it makes perfect sense. If you were to translate it verbatim, it will come, a certain way. You translate verbatim into English, then it doesn't mean the same thing. And now you're like, hey, you said that. I'm like, actually, no, I meant this, but it came out like this. So there's always things that are lost in translation. That's why I'm very cautious. And sometimes I even tell players, like, listen, man, get yourself a translator. Even though you speak English, if that's going to happen, I'm sorry. We cannot be taking any risks. Get a translator. Now, Juan Soto speaks English so well that it would be almost like silly for him to get a translator. But misinterpreted? Yes. He didn't mean it in an evil way. He did not. Right? But they made a huge deal out of it. Good thing for Soto, he just keeps on showing up, trying to put together some good ABs and playing as hard as he possibly can. Guys, he's here for years. He's going to be here for over a decade. If he starts worrying about this little minuscule situation, things can go south and spiral out of control. Put that behind you, get back to the process. That's what he's done. And his teammates have backed him up. And the Mets have won 7 in a row. Are you kidding me?
Carlos, let me just throw a little bit more sprinkles on the Mets here and give them some love on something else that we need to talk about. Their starting rotation has been phenomenal. Now, this is the team that I thought, I was like, well, outside of Senga, I don't know. And even Senga's kind of a mystery. The last 12 games, their pitching staff has not allowed a home run. All right. Last 4 starts, Senga's ERA 0.79. McGill 1.09 in the last 5 starts. Canning 3.21 in 5 starts. Holmes 3.16 in 5 starts. Peterson 2.29 in 5 starts. That's with the run support that they're already getting. This team is looking up and up and up, and they are 18-7 right now. I believe that's the best record in baseball. And this is just the first month. Now, you're right. Baseball, you know how it is, Carlos. It's a roller coaster. You got your ups and you got your downs. And right now, the fact that you got Pete Alonso, who I think is the MVP in my opinion right now, early on, and then you have Francisco Lindor, who I think is also a guy that you got to look at as an MVP, who is like Jesus said, Capitan Puerto Rico, who's the backbone of this team. Francisco Lindor is this is a guy that I can't say enough about, man. Like Jesus made a great point before about things going wrong and how things can go wrong. And there was a little period back a few seasons back where things could have gone wrong for Francisco Lindor with the thumbs down incident that happened with the fans. It was kind of shaky. But what happened? Francisco Lindor put it together and he became the leader of this team. This is Francisco Lindor's team. Yes, Juan Soto is the highest paid player on the team. He might be the best player on the team, but Francisco Lindor is the backbone of this team. He's the one that is going to take this team far. He's the one that's going to lead them into the promised land. And I got to give that man kudos. Francisco Lindor is a man. I can't say anything more other than that. That guy's killing it right now.
You know, Rod, before Jesus, before you chime in on that one, you know, when I looked at the rotation, that's something that I looked at very carefully and really dug in because they're performing at a level that was unexpected. I'm sorry, whoever came out and said, "Oh, they're going to dominate in pitching." No, I haven't found one writer out there that said that these guys are going to be dominant. You know, the starting rotation, but they have been. Now, I dug deep. And I know you hate this, Rod. I know you hate this, but I have to give it to you. Like the expected ERA of this is advanced statistics. Expected ERA of this rotation is higher than the ERA that their actual ERA, the ERA they actually have, which just points out to perhaps some luck here and there. They're giving up some hard hit balls that haven't resulted in runs. Now, is that worrisome? It would be if the discrepancy was larger. So for those who are calling, saying, hey, this is not sustainable, the expected area is way higher. Actually, it's not that much higher. And another thing that I'm going to say is this. The lineup hasn't been firing in all cylinders, right? Lindor and Alonso have been carrying that ball club, but Soto hasn't really gotten hot. How about Vientos? Vientos got to come and really contribute. He hasn't really been able to get hot. So you got McNeil coming back as well. So if the rotations goes back to what we expected them to be, just a little bit, regress a little bit, let's say, guess what? That lineup needs to improve as well. So they're going to balance each other out. So the Mets are for real.
They got a cushion.
That's what I'm
got a cushion right now.
The Mets are for real. The Mets are for real. This is not a fluke.
And keep in mind, they've done all this without Alvarez, who's coming back pretty soon. Francisco Alvarez. So, yeah, the Mets are going to be fine. I think it's good to caution. It's just April. There's a long season ahead. I still think everybody within the Mets front office will tell you that they would like another front line starter because, the goal there is not to make the playoffs. The goal there is to win the World Series. So they still need to improve that pitching staff. But I think the best sign for me is that they're off to a great start with only two guys carrying that offense. And Juan Soto hasn't gotten hot, and Juan Soto's going to get hot. As you mentioned, Vientos is still waiting to heat up. So, yeah, they're going to be fine. I'm really excited about, to see what the Mets can do this year. I'm surprised, it's been such a fun April around, imagine if the Cubs are in the playoffs, if the Mets are in the playoffs.
Wow. The Cubs.
Cubs are shout out to the Cubs, man. Kyle Tucker. He's gonna get that man is gonna get paid. So I think he's gonna be in my borough though. I think he's coming home. I think it's happening, but he's gonna get paid, man. That guy's having a year.
I'm glad you mentioned that because
all right,
last season when we were looking at the Juan Soto sweepstakes and we were looking at the Juan Soto numbers compared to Kyle Tucker's numbers, we're like, wait a second, that is eerily similar. And Soto is demanding, close to $1 billion I'm not saying that Tucker is going to be in that number because we certainly understand that the Mets paid a premium to bring Juan Soto over. But 500 million. When you look at what Vlad Guerrero Jr. got, you're gonna be like, I gotta go higher than that. If you gave it to Vlad Guerrero Jr., look at my numbers. So this is what agents do, man. That's what you do. He's like, hey, this guy's getting paid this much. Now look at the numbers, compare them. Mine are better. Ha! You gotta pay me more. It's supply and demand, and guys like Kyle Tucker do not exist. They're an extension. That's what I call a deflationary asset. You can't print any more Kyle Tuckers. All right. So yes, if I'm the Cubs, I'm trying to figure out a way to keep him before the season ends.
I've heard, I don't know if you guys have heard the same, but it seems that from what I've heard, it seems that he's not willing to negotiate in season. But then again, we heard the same thing with Vlad Guerrero. So, I who knows? Who knows? Do the Cubs play the Yankees this year? Is that do they play?
What are you trying to say, bro? Like,
no, I'm just saying because I can see a situation. Jesus, listen. Carlos is hating right now, obviously for obvious reasons. But listen, Jesus, just hear me out, Jesus. We saw what happened with Vladimir Guerrero. They saw the ownership saw him too chummy with the with the Met guys. Kyle Tucker comes in and Aaron Judge gives him a big hug and say, "Hey, listen, you can bat in front of me." And look at. By the way, Carlos. By the way, have you seen my guy?
No,
have you seen Aaron Judge this year? Have you seen that?
Thank
you. So imagine Kyle Tucker in front of him. Oh my God,
that would be unbelievable. Jesus, you are the baseball insider here. Give me your 2 cents. What's going to happen to Kyle Tucker?
Nothing that the Cubs have done in the last 5-6 years would lead me to believe that they're going to be a player to pay Kyle Tucker what he needs and what he deserves and what he can get on the open market. So I expect Kyle Tucker to go to free agency. I expect Kyle Tucker to get a deal bigger than Vladimir Guerrero Jr., not that much lower than on a AAV than Juan Soto. Keep in mind that Juan Soto is 2 years younger, 28 versus 26 than Tucker. But if you had told me last year, Jesus, who would you sign to this big contract, Juan Soto or Kyle Tucker? I probably would have taken Kyle Tucker just because he plays way better defense than Juan Soto could ever dream of playing. The only difference is I don't know that Kyle Tucker has what Juan Soto has, in that Juan Soto is that dog, man. He has that dog mentality, and I want him with the championship on the line. Kyle Tucker is one of the greats, and if I could have him with the championship on the line, I want him. But as far as like the Astros who were here, you'd probably pick him fourth with the game on the line. You'd pick Jose Altuve, you'd pick Alvarez. In 2022, you'd have picked Jeremy Peña. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, but Juan Soto, yeah, like you would have had, but Kyle Tucker's going to get paid, and at this point, if he thinks he's going to be healthy, I'd just bet on myself, as the cliche goes, and wait for free agency. But I will tell you this, Rod, don't expect a discount from Kyle Tucker. The Yankees are never going to get a discount for anybody.
They're never going to get a discount. No, that's not happening. It's business, though, and I get it. Carlos, I get it, bro, and Jesus, I get it. It's a business, and I'm a cousin of a former MLB player. I want all these guys to get paid. They deserve it. You know what I mean? So my thing is, they're gonna get paid. There is that discount thing doesn't exist, in my opinion. I don't think that's something that is non-existent. I feel like with Kyle Tucker, you're getting close to a total package, But I agree with you, Jesus. We don't know if he's that dog. But what if this is the year that he proves it? What if he leads the Cubs to the playoffs? What if he leads them deep into the run? What if he leads them to the promised land? You know what I'm saying? And it's because of Kyle Tucker. Maybe this is the year that he shows everybody, I'm going to show everybody that I'm that guy. It's possible. It could happen. But he's going to get paid and he's going to get rewarded, rightly so.
If that happens, he'll be able to write his own ticket anywhere, and the Cubs won't retain him. Just look at what the Cubs. Look at what the Astros did. Look at what the Dodgers have done. And 2016 World Series champions, 2017 World Series champions. The Red Sox and the Cubs have not. They did completely different than the Dodgers and the Astros. The Dodgers sustained their winning ways. The Astros sustained their winning ways. The Cubs, it has been embarrassing how they were unable to keep that success going. They were a one and done, and then mediocrity or worse. So I just don't expect them. They didn't do anything to keep that team together. Whereas the Astros and the Dodgers kept most of the team together until this year. They finally said, hey, we're not going to get to keep Kyle Tucker beyond next year. Let's replenish the farm system. But the Cubs could have done the same thing. But it's been 9 years since the Cubs won a World Series, and there hasn't been much success since. But I will tell you this, if we can change the subject a little bit. We talked about money, right, Carlos? We talked about how much value is in all these guys. Should we protect big league players better? And I bring this up because 3-time batting champ, guys won batting titles with 3 different teams. A friend of Plákata Nation, Luis Arraez. It was scary this weekend what happened when he and Mauricio Dubon collided. You had Venezuela and Honduras, and you could have thought it was a soccer tackle. Boom! Concussion. On the concussion, I know we all love the game. All of us who love baseball are somewhat purist. But I think it's time to give that extra bag that you see in Little League and softball and even college baseball.
Yeah.
Carlos, you played college baseball. More importantly, you played in the major leagues. What would you think about that extra bag to help protect guys so we could eliminate things like Luis Arraez getting into a collision with Mauricio Dubon? Because it was scary. Whenever you see a player, regardless of the sport, stretchered out, you're praying, oh God, let this not be. And then head injuries. I'll ask you, Carlos, what do you think?
I don't mind it at all. I mean, because the way you would ask, you asked this question, right? We're trying to protect players. And I think a great approach would be to ask the why not? Why not? And when you ask why not, it's like, give me your answer. What? The extra little piece on the base doesn't look well? Doesn't look that nice? Like, that is a dumb reason of why you wouldn't do it, right? So if that is your biggest objection, come on, man. It's a no-brainer. Give the runner a lane that he can run in, that's going to be safe. It doesn't change the game whatsoever. I think we'll get used to it immediately. When I watch college baseball games, to me, I don't even notice that there is that extra bag. At the same time, it's a different color anyways, so it almost blends in with the dirt. Like it in all honesty, what is the objection? So I expect this to get to Major League Baseball, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later, especially when you see things like this happen. There's no need to have those type of collisions happen. And why do they happen? Because there are some imperfections in the way the diamond has been designed, right? And the only way for you to find out is when things like that happen. You're like, okay, what are the chances of a collision? Well, as we can see, there are many chances of a collision. There is a running line that you have to kind of stay in when you're going towards first base. If you get around it. There are certain rules that protect you. You know, there are certain rules that tell you get far away, this far or that far. You can't, you know, if you go into second base, it's not like you can just go ahead and take off to right field, except in some weird situations. But at the end of the day, it's like, what are we trying to accomplish, right? Why not make sure that we give a lane? That to me, I don't even know why we wouldn't do it. So that is the question for you. Why not? Tell me what the objection is. And if you have none, then we must do it ASAP.
In many ways, I think Luis was fortunate that he hit Mauricio Dubon instead of Rowdy Tellez, who was involved in a different collision. And that's a big Mexican, man. That Mexican almost destroyed that bro. So let's just protect the players. We all care about baseball. You know, we got Major League Baseball got rid of the collisions at home plate. You know, this isn't football. And even football is barring some of these crazy collisions that we used to see back in the day. You know, like some of the collisions that they used to allow in Major League Baseball at home plate are no longer allowed in college football, in the NFL. You can't take out a guy who's not seeing you. You know, like a defensive receiver who's going over here, you can't take him out. In the old days, you used to take him out. You know, so I think it's important. They pay these gentlemen so much money. You don't need to risk an injury just because you don't want to put an extra piece, you know, base on the side to keep everybody safe. So I don't find a reason why they shouldn't do it.
Hey, Rod, does it bother you? I mean, when you look at all these rules that have been changing to protect players, like the collisions at home plate, you know, for me, it's a matter of like, okay, it's more exciting when you have this element of violence in the game, right? You know, you saw the catcher grab the ball, get in front and block home plate, and the runners had to like collide against them, and it's, I guess, why would we do it? Oh, it's exciting. Why would we take that away? I'm like, well, is it necessary? That's the other thing. We're gonna enjoy the game less because we get rid of collisions at home plate, and then the answer to that is not really. That's not why I watch baseball. I don't watch baseball to see a catcher get run over and pummeled. You know, I don't watch baseball to see second baseman to get taken out. Now there's a lot of you know, complaints from purists, like, oh, I used to love the way you used to take out a double play, you know, the shortstop when you were okay, but it's necessary for the enjoyment of the game. Does it take away from the essence of the game? And when you ask that question, you're like, not really. So why would we risk the player?
I agree. I don't think it's necessary. I think we have to protect the game. We have to protect the players because you know look at Luis. We got Luis in the concussion protocol now, and that's crazy. You know, and then the same thing with I think it was Alan Roden who ran into Rowdy Tellez. Rowdy Tellez is 6'4", 255. That's a big dude. That's like a linebacker. That's a wall you're running into, bro. Full speed. You know what I'm saying? And you should see the replay, right? Tellez, he went and hit Allen hit right to his backside. Right Tellez just was like standing up like nothing. And then you see Allen on the ground just like in pain. We got to protect the players, man. I mean, we saw it with the collisions at home plate, second base a few years back with the Chase Utley hard slide. You know, like these are things that we have to look out for, and because we don't want to lose these guys. Nobody wants to lose us. You know, God forbid something like this happens, and let's say whatever happens in the pennant race, and you lose that key player. You know what I mean? Like you have to protect the players. And yeah, I'm a baseball lover. I'm a purist, but I love the game itself. I love the fans. I love the players. And without the players, especially those important players, then we don't have a game. You know, we don't, and we lose those important guys that are vital to the teams and for their success. So I'm all for this. You know, do what you got to do. And if it's going to extend the player's career, even better.
All right. Speaking about that, speaking about extending a player's career, gentlemen, you know what? We've seen Javy Baez of the Detroit Tigers move over to center field. And boy, he's been making some nice plays or seemingly nice plays. And I know Rod is going to laugh at this, but
hater right there.
Bottom line is he looks pretty good in center field. You know, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, we can look at advanced numbers. To which el primo mío me va a decir, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say?
Listen, man, leave that, yo, advance them, yo, leave that in high school, bro. Leave that in college. I don't want to deal with that. I dealt with fractions and decimal points and all and statistics. I've done that. I'm done. I'm past that. I'm all about looking at Javy Baez being an athlete. That man is an athlete. Let him live. Let him do the nice plays. Let him extend his career in some way. You know what I'm saying? I give him credit. You know, he said, yo, let me try the outfield. Let me do this. Like Altuve did too. You know, you got to give these guys their kudos and their props for trying it out. And he's athletic enough. He plays in the majors. He's playing at the highest level when it comes to the game of baseball. He can do it. So Carlos, please miss me with this advanced stats and you know, I don't want to hear that, man. Leave that.
I'm just talking about catch probability and all that stuff. Dude, talk to me, man.
I'm gonna say this: Javy Baez looks like Jim Edmonds out there, and
he does.
I'm being sarcastic, and because as Carlos knows, Jim Edmonds would take bad reads and make sensational catches that had people raving about what a great defense. I'm like, bro, if you'd have read that correctly, it's an easy catch. It's whatever it takes, you know, wear a bigger hat than usual. So it flies out. I don't care what these guys do, as long as they make the catch. And you know, like Baez has been one of the greatest glove men of his generation, right? Like nobody will ever forget the iconic no-look catch from Yadier Molina at second base, right? Like you know, he is a special cat. Now if he can, like so the key for him.
Don't try that at home, please. Don't try that at home.
The key for him will really be whether he can start hitting again. That's the biggest question, right? Like he's such a free swinger, but he is one of the most entertaining guys to watch, and he puts the flair in Puerto Rican flair. Like that guy might be the most Latino baseball player in the majors right now. Like that guy puts some salsa on those tacos. You know, I don't know what the equivalent is for Puerto Rican. Yeah, if he were Mexican, ese le pone salsa a los tacos, that extra salsa.
Everything, brother, everything. There's. I don't
pone la salsa al mofongo.
Chacho, mira, let me tell you. Look, the one thing for sure is that here in Plakata Nation, we're pulling for Javy Baez because we're huge fans, and he just makes baseball fun. And that's the cool thing that I've seen, guys, is that it seems to me like he's really enjoying this switch. Like he's having fun, and to see him smile and to see him like, I feel like there's a breath of fresh air for him to kind of move from shortstop over to center field. Gives AJ Hinch a new dynamic, flexibility. So this is good. This is good, not only for the Tigers, but for Javy Baez particularly.
And the Tigers are 15-10. They are leading the Central. So listen, it's a positive. It's a positive.
You know, and not that easy to do, guys, right? Because if Rod, if you and I try to write baseball articles like Jesus does, I don't think we'll be that good. You know what I'm saying? So whenever I see guys make switches like this, you know, it just speaks volumes about their athleticism. So we're pulling for Javy. We want him to have a good year. And I think it's long overdue, and it'll be great for him. I think this is a great move, and I see him just freer. I see him enjoying baseball out there, which I love to see, because if El Mago is having a good time, I think it can rub off on the rest of the ball club and the rest of the team. And with that, gentlemen, it brings us to the quote of the day. All right, we saw how the Mets got off to an unbelievable start, right? However, you know, we have to get focused on the process. So what's the quote of the day? What's the quote of the day, Rod? Give it to me.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, by Lao Tzu. That is it.
The art
that
of
is what
war.
we're talking about.
The Art of War. If anyone listening to us right now, please go out and get The Art of War. What a great book as far as strategy in life. And this one right here, Jesus, Rod, this is perfect, right? Sometimes you have all these huge plans, like the Mets, they want to get to the World Series. Okay, guess what? You have to take one step first, then the next one. So even though whenever we have goals in life, professional, personal goals, you're like, wow, that's a long shot. I want to start that business. Man, that seems like it's way out there. Like, how in the world am I going to achieve this? Guess what? Take the first step. Because unless you take that first step, there's nowhere to go. You have to take that first step. Doesn't matter how long the journey is. And we can look into our own lives. My own experience to get to the major leagues and achieve my goal there. Jesus as well with his career. Rod as well with his career. Think about it. Think about when you started. For you to be able to get going, you have to take that one first step. So let's take that into the week, gentlemen. If you have anything else to add, please do. But guys, go out there and get that book to the audience who are listening to us right now. It's absolutely awesome.
Definitely. I'm all for that. Let's do this one step, and then that will lead to the thousands that we need to succeed. So let's get it, guys.
Yeah, let's apply that. Let's take that into the week and apply it to our lives. And guess what? One last thing about that, it's a lot more manageable when we think small like that. When we think huge, which is necessary, it's important for us to mark our destination, where we want to go, our north. But sometimes it could be overwhelming. But if you're just thinking about the first step, it's like, oh, I can do that. I can start researching what type of business I want to start. I can start researching what the numbers are. I can start talking to people. I can make that call. I could ask around. Take that first step. So everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Plákata Nation, and we can't wait until our next episode. We're going to continue to bring you some hot topics, and I'm going to be here with this stellar crew. So thanks for joining us. And with that, we'll end it. All right. Plakata. Again.
Later.
Peace out.
Adios. Peace.
Today's episode of the Plákata Nation podcast was produced by the Our Esquina Podcast Network. Executive produced and edited by Ras Guevara. Additional engineering support and publishing by Francisco Castro. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen. It really helps us grow the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week. Adiós, Plákata.